It's November 2020 and it's time for a brand new edition of Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast. As usual, the two Daves are here. I'm Dave D.
And I'm Dave B.
And we'll be guiding you through the next, well, we're not really quite sure how long this is going to be. We're usually around 35-40 minutes, but we've got so much on the list to get through this month. It might be a little bit longer. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, fingers crossed this is a sign of things to come, maybe. We will obviously not take up too much of your precious time, but there's so much going on, and there's a lot going on for us within the podcast. It's hopefully exciting for you guys as it is for us. So stay tuned to quite a lot of good stuff.
I'll tell you what we've got. We've got Dave, another Dave, from Nothing Bound Brewery in Worcestershire popping in to chat to us. We've got our new friends at Real Ale in London popping in for a chat as well, telling us about their bottle shops and their 3 tap rooms in London. We have got our usual features, Supermarket Sweep. We've got Hype Or Tripe. We have got Brew to Me, which this month is having a little change, Dave.
Yes, so as the world is seemingly getting ever smaller, one thing that's happened in the craft beer scene in the UK is it seems we're getting more and more US beer coming over, and not just the real big boys who can afford to produce en masse or perhaps even produce remotely. There's now a lot of real genuine US craft making its way over here, and it's still fresh and it's still very good. So with that in mind, we've changed Brew to Me to Brew Frontiers, where we're both going to try a US beer from a brewery we've not had before.
We've got various news, discussion points as well that we're going to bring up a little bit later. We're going to have a look at some advent calendars, some Christmas beer advent calendars. There is a lot happening, so stick with us if you can. Really appreciate you tuning into this episode number 5 of Daft About Craft. And without further ado, let's get on with those Brew Frontiers.
Okay, so as I said in the intro there, Brew to Me, slightly different version, a Star-Spangled version this month with Brew Frontiers. I'm first up, and I have got a beer called Hazy Dreams, which is right up my street in theory, by Abnormal Brewing. They are from San Diego, so we're on the west side of America, which might not be my favoured side really, but this promises to be hazy, so I'm therefore far more involved. Now, this beer came to me via Holland. Some of the Dutch places where you can buy in bulk are doing very good American stuff by the looks of it. So as well as all the UK retailers, a lot of European ones are getting some American stuff as well. So there's really no excuse to not be able to try and get hold of some good American stuff nowadays. But without further ado, it is hazy. It's perhaps, I would like it a bit more on the yellow side. We're a bit more on the orangey side, which
It's quite orange, isn't it? It's like, looks like the sun.
Yeah, it looks like the sun in Sunny Delight, I would say. We're going down that route.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't taste like that. Crikey.
That's really nice. That's really nice.
I feel as though I should insert some applause here or something, because you don't say that very often.
We've got relatively classical hops here. We've got Citrus, Simcoe, Mosaic, Cascade, who don't see as much of, and another one called Nugget, which I've seen popping up here or there, but I don't know if I've had much Nugget.
I mean, you see a lot of those combinations, bar the Nugget and maybe the Cascade. So what makes this so different to all those others?
It might be because I'm a little bit predisposed to want to like it, and also perhaps until proven wrong. And I have had occasions where it has borne out. I do sort of put American stuff on a bit of a pedestal because you see it online and you see the reviews everywhere. And when I've had the odd piece of really, really good American craft, I have sort of thought, I think perhaps we're in the UK, there is still room for improvement. In fairness, this actually could be brewed in the UK, and I would say it's very good. I wouldn't say it's outstandingly better than what we can get here, but it is.
I'd like to know what that Nugget's doing and what that's adding to the mix, if it is adding the element we don't usually get, because I don't think I've seen much of that around.
It's really well rounded. It rounds off really nicely. There's no hot burn. This is 6.9, so there's a chance that it could get a bit too boozy or a bit too strong. I mean, the back of the can is saying waves of citrus, resin, and tropical fruits. Now, citrus, yeah, definitely. Resin, not much, and that would put me off because I don't love resiny beers. And the tropical fruits are there, but not massively.
Not bursting out of the can the minute you open it or anything.
No, freshly squeezed orange juice, hint of grapefruit, as if you are walking in an orchard of citrus. We're back down the very florid descriptions like I had last month with my espresso stout. But this one is delivering. Could I have not got this all the way from San Diego and had it from a UK brewery? Possibly. So with that in mind, it's good, but it's not outstanding.
Right then, well, for regular listeners to Daftaboutcraft, on our very first episode, we actually had an appearance from the Kings County Brewers Collective from Brooklyn in New York. It was Dave B's selection, wasn't it, Dave?
Yeah, I had their Pilsner, which was Janiac Maniac, which I seem to remember I found perfectly pleasant without being outstanding.
Well, I totally forgot you'd had that, and I've gone for one of theirs this time, but it is new to me, so it's fitting the bill for the purposes of this feature, Brew Frontiers. And it's the KCBC Fruited Sour Laser Grazer, which sounds fantastic. Is it going to be?
Their can artwork is very good as well. It really draws you in, doesn't it?
Well, I popped a picture of this on Instagram earlier. It did look, the artwork really shone out on Instagram. It really looked good.
Daftaboutcraft on Instagram, if you want to have a look at that.
Well, you've seen, I'm showing him the can here. He's seen it on Instagram anyway. Can you hear that sizzling away there? Now, let's just hold that up so Dave B can see it.
Well, it looks a nice colour.
It looks nice. It's sort of ribenery with a nice bit of carbonation there. Cherry, blackberry, and red currant. I'm not actually a massive fan of cherry in beer, which is a good job I can't smell much of it then. Yeah, that's more blackberry and red currant there on the nose. Head's died down a little bit. Let's give it a taste. That's possibly not what I was expecting. This is 5.3%, 5.5%. It's quite thin. But then again, I suppose it's not a real heavy hitter, so probably it wouldn't be too thick. I'm getting almost like a hint of almond. I've no idea why. Is that a bit the cherry, do you think? Or am I just thinking cherry bakewells and almonds? Maybe it's just
yeah, maybe. I mean, I take it we're on the sour beat here, aren't we?
It's tart. It's not.
Okay.
It's not super sour. It's tart.
It's sounding a little bit like your description of last month's brew to me when you had the Swedish brewery, I believe.
Now, the Berliner Weiss, yes.
Yeah. Are we sort of in the similar ballpark? If you like a Berliner Weiss, you'd like that? Or is this better? Is this worse?
That was a bit more spritzy and a bit more life in it than this. This is nice. Just trying to think how much I paid. This came from Cotteridge Wines in Birmingham. I can't remember the exact price, which is more a reflection of how many beers I bought recently. It's probably in the £7 to £8 a can range, I'd have thought.
I think they've done quite a big drop in the UK of what I've seen recently. There's been a lot of sort of KCBC check-ins and sort of pictures appearing of them. So they really seem to have had a good go at trying to sort of infiltrate the UK market.
You see, the trouble is there's a lot of fruited sours and a lot of triple fruited sours around at the moment. I had the latest sour pod the other day from Staggeringly Good, and that was unbelievable. And when you're pitching up against those sort of beers, you've got to bring your top game to the table if you're up against those sort of beers. And it doesn't match up against those, no way. But this is just falling short of that for me. It's not nasty or anything. It's nice, very well drinkable. Won't have a problem getting through the can, but it's not setting me on fire. It's not great. It's not brilliant. But having said that, I'm glad I've tried it. And I think you've got to try these beers if you're I nearly said then if you're a fan of the sport. It is almost like a sport sometimes, isn't it? If you're a fan of the hobby and of craft beer, you've got to try these things when you see them on the shelf. And we shouldn't be thinking, oh, I shouldn't have wasted my £8 on that. Because I think we've got to know what's out there. I'm glad I tried it. Might not try it again, this particular beer, but it wouldn't put me off trying something else from them, just not maybe this one again.
Daftaboutcraft.
Okay, the fruited sour from KCBC there might not have gone down too well, but there's a brewery out there called Nothing Bound in Bewdley in Worcestershire who are doing great things at the moment and knocking beer after beer out of the park. And we're really, really chuffed to have the founder of the brewery and head brewer Dave on the podcast this month to tell you what he's been up to recently.
Daftaboutcraft.
Hi, I'm Dave Hayes from Nothing Bound Brewing Company, and thanks to Daftaboutcraft podcast for giving me this opportunity to share a bit about Nothing Bound, where we've come from and what our plans are for the future. We're really small, so our beer has barely made it out of the West Midlands and Worcestershire so far. Me and my dad brewing on a 6-barrel kit with just 2 fermenters in a barn in a fairly rural Worcestershire, although keeping things nice and simple really. Quite a few different things motivated me to set up a brewery. I got a real taste for well-made craft beer, and that drove me to want to find out how it was brewed, which sent me down the homebrew road. Always told myself that it was just for fun, but as I got more and more engrossed in it, I just wanted to learn more around water profiles, different yeast mash techniques, whirlpooling, heavy dry hopping, and it just grew and grew really. So I was just enjoying myself, and a bit of a turning point came when I entered a homebrew competition with Mitchell at Odyssey Brew Co, who was running the competition, and I've got no idea how many people entered, but I won and got to brew with Mitchell back in 2017. We brewed together a beer called Devil's Armchair. And brewing with Mitch gave me a real taste for what it could be like on a bigger kit, and 2 years later I was set up and I was brewing for the first beer at Nothing Bound on Chapel Farm. Nothing Bound is still very much a part-time thing for me, unfortunately, and I have to carry on with the paper shuffling in the day. Committing to it full-time seems a long way off, but things can sometimes move quickly, so I'm keen to keep pushing. You want to brew more, but you need the time, and you have to develop a share of the market before you can really sort of capitalise on that. I guess the beers that really inspired me in the early days were the Cloudwater double IPAs, the series that they did, and I loved how they worked through the different versions, basically taking us through their whole process of refining and experimenting with how they were doing their brewing, and it gave me a real insight into how things were done, and I just love that about those beers. And things in the UK have come on so much since then anyway, and there are so many good breweries out there to try. I mean, the recent batch of Even Sharks Need Water was so good, really enjoyed that. This year, so far, we've really just focused on our pale ales and IPAs. Everyone loves these, so I'm just keen to sort of like dial in the recipe for the next year or so to keep those going. We haven't brewed the same beer twice yet, so they're all there, but they're all various iterations of themselves, really. I give it some thought as a brewer. I gave it some thought, and the beer that I've brewed that I'm most fond of stands out for a few reasons, and that was Time Will Wait Pale Ale, which was a Citra and Idaho 7 hopped pale. It was only the second brew that we'd done, and we got some amazing feedback on it. Josh from Glasshouse tried it, and he had it on at his put a keg on at Glasshouse's 3rd birthday party. I was sort of totally amazed by Josh's encouragement and support at the time, as he didn't know me or anything like that. He just liked the beer, and it sort of made me realise that perhaps the brewery was going to work, and it was worth working on. We've got lots of plans. Some have been put on ice for a bit, as I'm guessing COVID has probably set us back about 6 months in all, but we were due to pour at the Taps Beer Festival earlier this year. It was a real shame it had to be cancelled, but we're sort of really looking forward for festivals to get going again and to getting involved in some of those. I mean, the pandemic has also made us do some things earlier than we planned, so we always intended to sort of run events at the brewery, but with lockdown and with the pubs being shut, we decided to get a premises licence sooner than we were originally going to. So since July, we've been serving pints out of the front of the brewery at Chapel Farm. It's been really well received. We've had lots of people come out and see us, and we've even had sort of lots of locals that don't necessarily have a pub anywhere near them and aren't actually familiar with modern hazy beer, but they've all loved it, and it's all been really well received. And we've got plans to extend the tap because we're looking to move into the barn next door, and hoping to have things up and running in there before Christmas, although probably looking at the spring to really get things going in there. So look out for more to come from us. Anyway, thanks again to Daftaboutcraft for this opportunity, and stay safe, everyone.
It's that time of the podcast where we have a look at what's happening in the wider craft world out there. with a bit of news, and also starting off with something a bit different considering we're now into November and Christmas is not too far away. You might be thinking of Christmas presents and that sort of thing. And there's any amount, and I'm sure you've seen them, of craft beer advent calendars out there. In fact, I even saw a Next catalogue earlier, and they've got some craft beers in there as well. Incredible. They're popping up everywhere these days, Dave.
Craft, possibly in inverted commas there. But,
I think it was.
Yes, you're right. Everywhere is doing them, not least our friends at Hull. They're definitely doing them, although you might need to be quick to get your order in with those guys. They do have one for $59.99, which you can get a lovely 10% off with our exclusive discount code DAFTHAUL, all capped up, DAFTHAUL.
If you pop along to their website at hall-beer.com, if you do find they've run out of advent calendars, because I know there's not many left, they have got all manner of beers on there as well that you can use that discount code with, all sorts of styles of beers, and they're getting new deliveries each and every week. And we're looking forward, actually, very soon to popping down to the shop, which is very near to me here in the West Midlands, because they're installing some lines in the shop as well. So we'll be, that'll be our new place to go, I think. We can be found down there most evenings, probably, I'd have thought, if we're not careful. But we're looking forward to that. So if you are ever in the area, they're based in Stourbridge, which is where I am in the West Midlands. And if you want to pop in there and see Hannah and Paul, they'll be opening their bar very soon to go with the bottles and cans that they sell in the shop. So that should be worthwhile popping in and seeing them. That's Hall, and you can find them at hall-beer.com. Now, there's lots of other advent calendars out there on the market. Dave, do you want to run through a few of them and tell everybody what there is?
Pretty much. I think now it's got to the point where everyone has cottoned onto this. This is a great idea of either how to get people into beer, how to buy beer for that person in your life who really likes it, and it's pretty much catered to every budget now. So, as Dave says, to run through a few, Fuss Club, another subscription service, a very good subscription service, Fantastic. Which we would both recommend. They have a calendar which comes in at £150, but that is beer and merchandise.
I think he's scoured not just scoured the land, but scoured the world for his beers for this advent calendar. So I think you can expect good things.
Honest Brew, they've got a couple of calendars. One definitely seems to be more on the entry level, which is a very good idea. I think, if memory serves, that's around £60, and then there is one more that's probably more geared towards someone who knows what they're after rather than sort of being introduced to styles, and I think that's around 120. Again, check availability because I'm pretty sure they're going fast.
Also out there, who else? Beerhawk, they've got one for £85, and not too far from me, Warwick Real Ale. They've got a shop in Warwick Town Centre. I see they've got one for £93.50, and Craft Metropolis, there's another one, £119.95. And they've only released 25 of their advent calendars. Last time I looked, there were still 20 available.
Yeah, I mean, the one I've seen, if you've really got deep pockets, is McKellar. It's £123 on pre-order. They're promising beers from their San Diego branch and War Pigs. So there's some very good stuff. But if you miss the pre-order, it's £200 basically for full price, which is a heck of a lot, but lives up to it, then it could be an amazing calendar.
Of course, Dave gets his own specially prepared advent calendar as well, don't you, Dave? We should tell people about this.
Yes, I am in the rather lucky situation where I have a very understanding fiance who actually, I wouldn't say encourages, but certainly tolerates my problem, and she curates an individual calendar, which is, as we've been together longer and longer, has become a more difficult and also expensive task, because it's now rather tricky to get stuff that I haven't had or want to have. So it's a bit of a labour of love, but she does it very, very well, and I'm very excited to see what December the 1st brings.
Wow. Well, he's a tough customer to please sometimes, Dave B. So I'd love to be a fly on the wall sometimes to see his reaction to some of those beers. Anyway, there's quite a bit of news knocking around on the craft beer scene at the moment as well. I noticed that Alpha Delta in Newcastle, even though we're in very strange times at the moment, they're just about to open a brand new tap room, which is great news. I went to Newcastle fairly recently and went to by the river to their tap room and also to Full Circle. So it's great to see Alpha Delta stepping up into the tap room arena. Look forward to going to see them next time we are around there. Dave, London Beer Factory, they've got a bit of news, haven't they?
Yeah, they're urging fans to petition their local council, which is Lambeth, to build a new tap room as well for their premises. I hadn't had a lot of London Beer Factory until recently, and they've actually seemed to have possibly come on leaps and bounds. I think I possibly had them pegged as a bit supermarket orientated, but they've actually got some really, really cracking stuff going on. If you do want to sign up and add your name to the petition, then you can sign up through change.org and then just search for London Beer Factory.
And you could be a part of helping another tap room to open, which would be fantastic. Talking about tap rooms, my nearest one here is the Green Duck Brewery tap room. Of course, we had them on the podcast last month. And another one, not too far from me in Coventry, is Twisted Barrel. Now, they've teamed up together to do a crowdfunder. They're bidding to raise £25,000 for a new canning line. They were using a mobile canning line during lockdown, and I think it's proven quite expensive. So what they're doing is they're going to source their own, and they're looking for that £25,000 to pay for it. But if you put money in, you crowdfund, you can get some very good deals out. So if you put £50 in, for example, you can get £100 out in tokens to spend in the tap rooms of Green Duck or Twisted Barrel. And I think if you put £100 in, you get £200 back. So some really good deals there to be had. So if you just look at Green Duck's social media or their website or Twisted Barrels, there are more details to be found on there. And I think I might get involved with that.
Christmas is coming, having just followed on from the Advent calendars. So if you want to pitch in for someone as a Christmas present and they're in the area, and then you're putting in £50 and they get to spend £100 in said place, I imagine it would go down very well as a present.
It's pretty well timed, I think, isn't it? Perfect.
And speaking of Christmas, I think we're now in the spell where there's going to be a lot of Christmas-related releases or releases just in time for Christmas to help you spend a bit more of your money. Pomona Island have been probably first off the block. They've released 4 barrel-aged Imperial Stouts and 2 special gold rim glasses for the not inconsiderate amount of £80. However, as I've led to believe, stuff sold out within about 7 minutes.
Well, I was hovering over the button, and I'd got these in my basket, and I pressed the button to buy them, and no, sold out. But I later read, in fact, what had happened. The website had crashed, and there are some more now available on the website. Although I bought them all individually because I didn't want to miss out, so I didn't get the sort of discount you get with buying them in the box. But I do have them on the way, ready for Christmas. I couldn't help myself.
So essentially, it was a to me, love me.
Well, you know, you've got to have these things sometimes. Well, something new on Daft About Craft. We've got a couple of guests joining us for the very first time here on the November edition. We've got Mike and Tim from the Real Ale Bottle Shop and Tap Room in London. And, well, welcome.
Hey, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Not a problem. Let's start with Mike, shall we? Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you do and what your role is in Real Ale?
Sure, yeah, pleasure. So my name's Mike. I manage the Twickenham store out of the 3 stores that we have. I've been with the company, I think, since 2007, I think. It's been quite a while. We've been going since 2005, so kind of been on and off. I've done a bit of travelling, and then thankfully they've brought me back into the fold. So very much appreciated to Real Ale for that.
So you must have seen a lot of changes since 2007, 13 years.
Yeah, it's quite staggering, really. The Real Ale shop started off with just shelves, no fridges, all bottles, 500ml bottled ales. And ever since then, Brewdog's come around, just craft beer in general expanding massively. It genuinely has been staggering, the changes that we've seen.
We've got thousands of breweries now in the UK. I guess 13 years ago, there had been a tiny fraction of that.
Handfuls, yeah. I mean, I think we started off with maybe 12 breweries.
Okay.
Now it's hard to even say. I mean, we've usually got about 600 plus beers in stock, and anywhere between 50 to 150 breweries. It's hard to really gauge it, and the varieties we can get in is amazing.
So in each of your 3 shops in London, you've also got taps in each shop as well?
We do, yeah. So we do growler fills in each store. And we've got licenses to serve on site in each store, but obviously we're not kind of keeping them active at the moment.
Right. So that's declined because of the coronavirus restrictions and what have you.
Exactly, yeah. And we've always been retail, so we're kind of just focusing on that. In the Notting Hill store, we've got seating outside.
Sorry to interrupt. We have actually just started introducing drinking inside Notting Hill quite recently, because it's getting a bit cold now to just offer.
This is a thing at this time of year. A lot of places they're doing drinks outside, and it's not the ideal sort of weather for it at the moment.
No, I mean, it looks like that's the way things are going. Christmas outside, but we just have to be flexible, really. And we've drawn up so many different plans and policies to try and make people feel safe, and staff feel safe, and customers feel safe. So yeah, we'll do our best. But we haven't got plans to introduce drinking in Twickenham and Maida this side of Christmas, at least.
So yeah, just to give a full introduction there, that was Tim. So
yes, that was me.
Yeah. So Tim, I think I'm right in saying you look after the retail side for Real Ale. So how long have you sort of been involved with the guys?
So I joined in 2014. So I spent a few years working for a wine company in Bath before that, and then joined as an assistant manager in Twickenham 2014, and then persuaded the powers that be to open up another shop, and then subsequently another shop as well. So I kind of found myself looking after all of them. But yeah, it's been pretty a roller coaster since joining, to be honest. The amount of changes have been intense, not over the long period of time that Mike's been with us, but in a short time, we've seen a lot of changes, yeah.
So what was your background then before you joined Real Ale?
I was also like a freelance journalist for a bit on the side, and I didn't really know that much about beer. Like, I'd always drunk it and enjoyed it, but never really thought too much about it. So I kind of applied for the job in Twickenham, just a blank slate, really. Like, I had wine knowledge, but not much beer knowledge, but then just completely loved it and just got into it, and just got obsessed with it. I've got quite an obsessive personality, so just completely engaged with it.
Do you think Real Ale is one of the craft beers? Is one of those things that attracts people who are a bit obsessive? Because I know that Dave and myself are probably fit that mold as well.
A little bit, yeah. Maybe. Certainly, like maybe the extreme kind of ticker end of the spectrum. Untapped and things like that. They're quite kind of geeky platforms, really.
Yeah.
Got to love them, though. Yeah, definitely. But I think it's maybe getting a little bit less like that. Certainly seeing a lot more kind of women getting involved with beer over the last few years, certainly. And just kind of all shapes and sizes, really.
It's really kind of opened things up to everyone, hasn't it? Because I remember, Real Ale used to be very much kind of gimmicky, almost borderline sexist, labels, and very much a sort of male-based industry, and now it's incredible how it's just opened up to absolutely everyone.
If you take yourself down to a tap room on a Friday, Saturday night these days, there's such a wide variety of people in there. It's not just one type of person. It is across the whole spectrum, isn't it? It attracts everybody.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's kind of one of the changes I've noticed since I've been here, even since the last 5 years. I've got a lot more female customers. We sell wine as well, not to kind of harp on cliches, but that helps, I suppose. But certainly in terms of people engaging with beer, like almost women coming at it from almost no beer background, which is quite refreshing. So they, don't have any notions of what to expect. So when you pour something like a triple fruited goes or something, they just immediately love it in a way that maybe some blokes wouldn't, who, drunk other types of beers.
Like myself.
We're trying to get Dave into triple fruited gozes and any sort of sours, but he won't have it, will you?
No, I can't do sours, I'm afraid. I'm trying very gently to ease myself into that, but sours are just not on my radar. But
it's one of my ambitions in life is to turn him to sours and get him to enjoy them.
It took me a long time. When I first started here, we had a guy called Duff who was managing the store. A really, really nice guy. And he just would not leave me alone until I started liking sour beers. So he was just pouring Dry Fontaine and Cantillons and everything he could find down my throat. And it took about 5-6 months of kind of solid sour drinking before I really come around to them.
Did the switch suddenly flick and you all of a sudden liked them? Because that's how it happened with me.
It was very fast, yeah. It was kind of slow, and then it rapidly went, wow, yes.
Well, you never know, then. There might be hope for me yet. So two things. One, we've talked a lot about how things have changed in all this time. I guess then is the name of your company itself a bit of almost a sign of that? Because when you think real ale, I don't know if you can put that with craft beer so much now because they seem so separate entities, but is that sort of a thing that you guys have been around 15 years and that's where the name originates from, but obviously it now means a completely different thing?
Yeah, I guess so we've been around 15 years. So when Nick opened the shop, craft beer just wasn't really a thing in England. And so real ale was craft beer. It was, that was the only moniker, I suppose, available to someone who wanted to have a specialist beer shop. And yeah, we've kept the name, but we've adapted so much over the years. We've introduced so many different styles and wine and spirits, ciders, everything. It's an interesting one for sure. It's not what you maybe wouldn't expect us to stock the kind of products that you would find in our shops.
Yeah.
If the name of the business was the only thing you were going on.
But yeah, it's been really interesting to sort of get in touch with you guys and then find out what you've got, because you've got a lot, and there's a lot of really interesting and good stuff to sample. And hopefully once we get back to some sort of normality, I'm a bit closer than the other Dave, but I'm definitely want to come down and check out some of the taps you've got. Against the backdrop of everything at the moment, obviously, is COVID and that. So how have you guys found running various platforms, I guess, in this time?
Yeah, it's been a bit crazy, to be honest. It's been actually pretty positive for us. So a little bit kind of uncomfortable saying that, because obviously, it's a horrible situation to be in for everyone. But the shops have been busy. Even before lockdown, we had massive rushes of people stocking up in March, and then obviously closed the shops the end of March and throughout April, and then went online only, and that was crazy. That was like just basically changing your business model overnight, pretty much. Like, we were lucky that we had a website and an e-commerce platform that we could just switch on effectively. It was on before, but it wasn't really something we thought about. But then, as soon as the shops closed, that was just, we were delivering 5 days a week, pretty much like 9 to 5, like even managing director and the owner were whizzing around in their cars, like throughout West London. We did it all ourselves. That was crazy busy. And then when the shops opened, they were busy again. So we got pretty lucky in that respect, because as Mike said earlier, we're primarily retail. We're basically 3 shops. Like, we have drink in.
Presumably your name got out there a bit more during lockdown because people sought you out.
Yeah, I think so. I think we definitely picked up a lot of orders from people who might not have actually come in the shop before. People pretty desperate with the pubs closed. The kind of stuff we were selling online wasn't necessarily what we would sell most of in stores either. It was completely different. It got maybe slightly less kind of specialist and niche and the kind of things we were delivering.
I think people have changed their buying habits quite markedly through this year. I mean, I think Dave and I have talked about it before, that before this all happened, I wouldn't have put in the amount of orders online that I have, and I've now stuck to it, and also sort of going to brewers or bottle shops direct rather than just, the odd order, but generally just relying on if I'm out and about, or just drinking when I'm out on the night, like most people would.
Yeah, we both put in orders all the time now, direct with breweries and various bottle shops who've sprung up with websites. We're on there all the time. We spend far too much time, looking at what people have got. But do you think, there must be a lot of competition out there for you now as well then? Is that tough to deal with, or are you getting on okay with that?
I mean, online's hugely competitive. I'd be hesitant to set up an online only business in this day and age that was, beer focused, because there are just so many quality options out there. During lockdown, it was very much customers who couldn't visit us in person were going to our website, who wouldn't have otherwise done that. So I don't think we were necessarily, tapping into, online sales in general. It was probably just mostly serving customers who couldn't get beer from us. And
primarily all our local customers, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's like we go to the same places like sometimes 4 or 5 times.
That's good that you've got a loyal customer base then.
Yeah, big time. I mean, we've been there so long, I suppose. We've got, a sizable presence in our 3 locations. People kind of know where we are, who we are, what we are, especially in Twickenham. So yeah, I think people were just scared of losing us. And I think a lot of independent shops like us probably have similar stories to tell.
I definitely know in my local shops in the sort of Suffolk and Essex area, as you say, everyone's got that story to tell. But I think if you're a smart business, you learn to adapt, and you guys definitely sound like you're having that. So what's sort of on the horizon for Real Ale? Obviously, we've got Christmas coming, and then into whatever 2021 does offer. But what are you guys going to be up to, and what can we look forward to from you?
Yeah, well, I think we want to get Christmas out of the way first, because none of us really know what to expect. It's kind of changing by the minute.
It must be difficult trying to make any sort of plans, because the parameters keep changing all the time, don't they, with COVID?
Exactly. I mean, we've got to assume it's still going to be around, obviously. So it's not going to be kind of Christmas as we know it, which kind of maybe isn't that bad a thing in terms of our retail perspective, because it means more people are going to be at home. So we're quietly confident that it will be a busy one. So yeah, we're kind of making lots of plans for that, getting lots of mixed cases ready and things like that, kind of special offers online. And then next year, hopefully, we can, once there's a vaccine, or we can get back to doing tasting events and, doing drinking and, restore the atmospheres of our shops, because we all kind of missed that a little bit. We missed the kind of the vibe of the drinking. Yeah.
That's the thing that's going to get people back to venues, I think. You miss the social element of it. It's okay drinking at home, but it's not quite the same, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
And do you have any link-ups with any local breweries?
Yeah, Mike, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, we're blessed with quite a few local breweries. So Twickenham Brewery is currently our closest operational brewery, also London's oldest microbrewery. We've got a brewery called Jawbone, who are setting up even closer, actually, in Strawberry Hill. Hopefully they'll be open quite soon. The Park Brewery in Kingston. We've got Jefferson's, who are in Barnes. 2 young brothers who've been making some cracking beers lately. They're the ones we've worked closely with.
That's so exciting when you hear you guys reel off, like, Dave and I sort of would consider ourselves pretty up to date. And speaking for myself, I think after Twickenham, I didn't know any of those. So it's just so fascinating to see that, there's always someone new popping up, and it's brilliant to hear that the scene is still sort of really vibrant.
Do you think that we'll reach a point when there is a sort of saturation point, if you want, with craft beer, and there'll be too many breweries and not enough people wanting to consume their goods?
I feel like we may have hit that point already. We've heard of a few breweries have had to close down for various reasons. I think it maybe depends on which part of the country you're in and how saturated it is within that part. We're talking a bit before we started this conversation about Manchester, how you've got Track, Squawk, some big breweries, Cloudwater, obviously. So I think it almost depends on, I would say, how many breweries are in a certain area and how big they get compared to the rest of the UK. And the demand for local beer as well. I mean, I imagine it's quite different in certain parts of the country. But I certainly feel like the UK on the whole probably has reached saturation already. It almost feels like that. I mean, there's so many breweries we want to stock. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Yeah.
As retailers, what's still just shifting off the shelves, and what do you sort of think we could see a bit more of? And there's that sort of, when you say we might be at saturation, but where could there be a bit of growth?
I mean, I feel like there's something new around the corner every day. Every time I try something new, I think, well, where can this go next?
Yeah, I think we definitely have seen lagers get more popular over the last few years. I think, especially this summer, they're just flying out the door in a way that I don't remember. We look for consistency. We look for like a really solid core range of beers as well. It might not be the most exciting thing in the world, but it certainly does the brewery a lot of favors, I think. If they can just consistently nail their core beers. I feel like things go in circles, and we've gone through like an extreme kind of IPA cycle, and it might swing back round, and
I've suddenly started seeing some imperial lagers out there all of a sudden, 2 or 3, and like you say, maybe that is the next thing.
Yeah, kind of give them the double IPA treatment.
Yeah.
I want milds to make a comeback, but I can't seem to get me.
Well,
we've had a few milds recently that have been really good. Things like Amber Mild, the Brass Castle. They did one called Fruit Salad, I think it was called, with fruit salad sweets in a mild. So I agree. I think some of those older kind of traditional styles are and should make a comeback.
So we should finish by asking what you both enjoy drinking. What's if you had to pick something?
It always varies for me. I definitely go through phases of loving sour beers, with different fruits, and then just needing an IPA or a session IPA or something just easygoing, hoppy, just straightforward, and then a big bout of stouts and just getting really into imperial stouts. So I think aside from like the seasonal changes that people go through, I think it's definitely more kind of block phases of enjoying a certain style for a while and then needing something else almost and kind of latching onto that.
Couldn't agree. I find exactly the same thing. I'm on the sours at the moment, then I'll do those for a week and think, no, I've had enough sours, IPAs now, then something dark. So I see exactly where you're coming from. Tim, what about you?
One beer that springs to mind is Duration's Sweeping Coast.
Okay.
It's a lovely kind of West Coast pale, just clean as a whistle, and it's a style I've been enjoying quite a lot of late. Just really refreshing, well executed, nothing flashy.
Well, a very, very big thanks to the guys there, Mike and Tim from Real Ale. They're based in the south of England with branches in Twickenham, Maida Vale and Notting Hill. And, now the country's been locked down again for a few weeks, pretty much. The distribution side of things will be very big again, so get yourself along to realale.com and have a look at what they've got there, and why not put in an order with them. Okay, it's time for one of our regular features now on Daftaboutcraft. It's a supermarket sweep where we scour the shelves of the supermarkets and try and find something interesting to drink and share with you. Tell you what we think of it.
This month, we've gone for one of the first wave of releases that came through in Morrison's. So just at the time of recording, started to do a second wave. But this Norse Star, which is a Northern Monk and Lervig collab, we're on the Imperial Stout beat here at 9%.
Right, so let's crack open the can.
I'm getting quite a lot of almondy marzipan, maybe.
I'm thinking Battenberg. Battenberg comes to mind.
Yeah. That's
In fact, this could be very nice with a slice of Battenberg.
very dark as you'd expect, and not a bad sort of initial mockery type head that's holding up well.
I'm getting a lot of dark chocolate is the overwhelming.
Yeah,
one
there's
as well.
cacao in there, isn't there? I think that's sort of coming through as quite dark, strong chocolate. That's sort of almost sort of cooking chocolate. Beyond Bourneville, really bitter. That's sort of 70%.
Let's give it a taste. Yeah, that is a lot. There is a lot of chocolate going on in there. I'm liking it. I'm not a massive dark chocolate fan usually, but that's nice.
It's a little bit too bitter for me, almost. I mean, I do like dark chocolate. It's that marzipan-y almond is kicking around in the background, but it is very strong dark chocolate.
Do you think you've got to be a dark chocolate lover for this one?
Maybe. I wouldn't mind sharing the can. A whole can feels a little bit much to try and handle because it is pretty relentless with the darkness. There's not a lot of sweet going on.
I see. There is some lactose in there, but I don't get a big hit of lactose like you can with some of these beers. It's not in your face, is it? It's very subtle.
Yeah, I wouldn't know there was lactose in there unless you told me. Really,
No.
it's not that sweet pastry stout thing where they really go overboard with it, and you sort of feel not your teeth rotting, but you can feel the sweetness that they've put into it. This isn't quite there, is it?
No, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because some of these beers, when you crack them open, all you can get is the lactose. Then when you taste it, it's there. It's really, really dominant. So it's very subtle in the background, if at all.
I don't know if I'd seek this out again. I mean, it's perfectly decent, and £4 a can, and for that, it's pretty good value.
I like that. I would, if I was in Morrison's, £4 a can. I think I'd pick that up again, to be honest.
Maybe with Christmas coming, if I wanted to sort of give someone a stout to sort of see how they sort of like that kind of thing, this isn't a bad introductory effort. Maybe it's probably a bit better than that, in fairness. But I personally, I probably wouldn't be buying it again for myself, at least.
Daftaboutcraft.
As I'm sure you know, there's lots of ways to get in touch with us here at Daftaboutcraft. One of those ways is through our Instagram account, and somebody who did that was the King of Aberdeen Parkrun, and he sent us this message, for which we thank you very much indeed, and a quick thank you also to the Points of Brew team as well. Cheers, guys.
I do listen to your podcast. I saw on Point of Brew's story that he mentioned you and recommended you. I talk to him now and then because we do like talking about, craft beer and wrestling and gaming. So yeah, just listen to your recent podcast literally a couple seconds ago. Keep up the great work.
Okay, so it's that time of the Daftaboutcraft podcast where we do this. We grab ourselves a beer, a real hype beer that's been everywhere in the last few weeks, and we find out whether it is indeed hype or tripe. Is it good or bad? And last time we did something a little bit different, where we grabbed a couple of Neon Raptors and we did one each, and we're going down that road again this month, Dave.
Yes, we've gone for 2 big hitting beers this month, because it felt right really to review both rather than just pick one over the other, as they both have been creating all sorts of buzz. You've gone for the North and Daya TIPA, and I've gone for Short Step, which is the Quad, a collab as well, this time between Track and Spanish brewer Soma.
And we're excited by these 2 beers, aren't we? There's absolutely no doubt about it. They've been everywhere.
They've not been that easy to get as an indicator of how sought after they are. You couldn't get the Track one, and I can't get the other one.
Yeah.
So it's kind of worked out in its own way.
Tracking the Track one down was a near impossibility for me. I tried a load of places and couldn't get it, so we thought, let's do 2. And you've got yours there, Dave. You've already cracked it open. How's it looking and smelling?
Well, I don't even need to get that near to the can or to the glass to be able to smell the sort of waves of fruit coming off it. It pours a really lovely, thick, hazy yellow, really vibrant and bright. It's that sort of real big, sweet, citra, tropical flavours going on without being overpoweringly sweet, not sickly, but just really strong. You sort of know what you're getting. It's lining you up before you even taste it.
Just looking at it there as well, it's not that sort of orangey, vinegary colour that some of these really, really strong tippers can look.
No, we had the Northern Monk one a few episodes ago, and that was sort of going down that marmalade-y, orangey brown route. This is vibrant. This is really big, and it's a great looking beer. And let's see how it tastes.
Some of these beers, when you crack them open, the smell almost hits you, doesn't it? It bursts out of the can. It looks like this is one of those jobs.
Yeah, and it matches up on the taste. It's powerful old stuff. They're not hiding the 13%. This is a big, powerful, strong beer. The fruit is there. That's sort of pretty relentless. I get a lot of mandarin. There's also the citrus sort of bringing through the juicy side of things. A little bit earthy almost. There is a bit of hot burn, but that's sort of almost to be expected, but it's not too rough and ready. You
almost expect that, don't you, with something that's 13% as well?
Yeah, you're going to do very well to hide it entirely. And there is a bit of it, but I don't really care. I mean, I keep sort of going back to it quite quickly, even at its strength, and sipping through it, because it's really enjoyable.
Like you say, it's not one you're going to gulp down and chug away. You're going to be sipping on that for a while, I think, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. And it's it's just starting to change a bit now. That sort of dankness is coming to the fore a bit more. Galaxy's in here as well. So sometimes I'm getting a bit more of a sweeter blast, and then another time I'm getting more of that sort of dank, earthy, almost resiny, but not quite hit as well. So there's a lot going on in this, which is really exciting.
2020 has been very much talked about as the year of the TIPA. There's been some real big ones out there. Polly's Spur stands out.
Yeah, there has been an awful lot. I think when people are doing this sort of end of year stuff, which will soon be upon us, I imagine TIPAs are going to feature pretty heavily on people's lists of the best beer they've had this year.
So when we saw this one, the triple IPA from North and Daya, we're pretty excited because obviously they're two massive players in the craft beer scene. And, this 10% tipper released on October the 13th. It's already got a rating of 4.22 on Untapped. And, it is exciting. I've opened it up. I poured it out, Dave, but it's a very vibrant colour again, isn't it? Looking very nice in the glass there.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what you get out of this, whether you feel it's more North orientated or Daya, because this is a little bit of a departure for Daya. We don't see them sort of going much beyond sort of 6.5%, I guess. They do some dippers from time to time. They're always very good, but
that's not really what they're known for, though, is it? The real big hitters.
No, they've got that real nice niche carved out where they're in that 6% sweet spot, and their beers are always going to be really well-rounded, really full, really fruity, soft as well. So I'd be interested to see if you're getting much of that, or it's more sort of North-orientated.
Well, from what I understand, this collab came about through email rather than the two breweries physically meeting each other. And I think it was brewed at North. So there, before I even taste it, I think is our answer. I think it's going to be heavily North influenced. So let's give it a go. And yeah, you can definitely see that that's North in there rather than Daya. You think of Daya and you think of these sort of light and spritzy IPAs and full of sort of tang and zest. And this is a lot more dank, as you would expect from a tipper. This is North. I'd be really fascinated to know what they actually brought to the table and what their influence was, other than their name.
I don't know really. What sort of have they given away the hops on the can? What you've got in there?
Well, it's been fermented with the Creek yeast, which is becoming more and more popular. And there's what have we got in there? Idaho 7, Citra Cryo. Lotus as well, dry hop with Lotus.
That's definitely a North influence, yeah, because I had a beer by North, which was, I think it was single hopped just with Lotus, and it was really enjoyable. It was quite a different taste. It was citrus, but it was more that sort of oranges and lemons type thing. I really enjoyed that. So if that's coming through in there, I reckon that makes it quite a nice beer.
I've noticed it's not changing much with each mouthful. It's pretty it's consistently there. It's not dropping away or anything. But each mouthful, there's not much more coming to the table each time. Like sometimes these beers can develop as you drink them, but I'm not sure this one is. It's quite one note, but it's a good note. Should say that actually North have they've got more collabs in the pipeline. They've just released another couple with Seven Islands and Alpha Delta, both Imperial Stouts, and they've announced another stout with McKellar that's coming up soon. This is going to be quite fascinating now to see how they all match up, because there's big breweries again involved there.
Well, I'm quite happy to put mine firmly in the hype category. I really like this. I wouldn't necessarily be wanting to have another one in a hurry purely because it's just such a big beer, but that's not to say it's not a beer that's very, very good.
This is one of those beers you savour, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fitting of the segment, and it's fitting of what reputation it's already carved out. It's a fantastic beer.
And as for mine as well, definitely not in the tripe category, just into the hype zone for me, I think. I think maybe because we sample so many different beers, you become a bit blasé. Oh, look, it's another tipper, it's another dipper. And the element of surprise isn't massive, is it? But with yours, because you don't see these quads very often, it's very different to what we're used to.
There is that, yeah, there's perhaps a bit of novelty factor with mine as well, which is factoring in, you're right. And as we promised, it's been a huge episode. There's so much we've got through. Hopefully you'll enjoy listening to it as much as we enjoyed putting it all together. So thank you to Real Ale for coming on and having a chat to us.
Thanks also to Dave from Nothing Bound as well. I've got a feeling that 2021 could be a really good year for Nothing Bound, and I really hope so as well.
Yeah, fingers crossed. He seemed a really good guy.
And next month, it continues because we've got a couple of great guests lined up. We've got one big hitting brewer from Scandinavia coming on the show, fingers crossed. We won't tell you too much more, but we're really excited about that.
Yeah, fingers crossed on that front. That sort of falls to me to get it over the line, but it is looking promising. And we've also got Rob from This Week in Craft Beer, who does a podcast and an excellent weekly email newsletter, which I'd suggest seeking out online and signing up to. It's a very good way of keeping track of all of the new beers that come out each week.
And he'll be telling us what he does and how he got involved in this great hobby of ours. Now, the next few weeks are going to be quite interesting, what with the latest COVID-19 lockdown rules and regulations that have just come into force. So what we should say to you, because a lot of pubs, well, all pubs are going to be closed, get onto websites and bottle shop websites, brewery websites, and please do support your local breweries and buy as much as you can from them, because this is a really critical time for them now.
Yeah, definitely. And support your local pubs as well. Some of them are being quite clever already. I've seen it in my local area where they're now going to be selling either stuff from the fridges, or they'll be sort of turning the keg lines into takeaway beer again, because that's still allowed. So if that's the case and there's some good beer that you want to get hold of from your local, get in touch with them and take it away from them, because you're only helping them out.
Definitely. Now, if you want to get in touch with us, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. You can get in touch with us on email at daftaboutcraft1@gmail.com. We're on Facebook with our Facebook page. Any number of ways to get in touch with us. You heard earlier one of our listeners sent us a voice message on Instagram. If you want to do that, please feel free. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, as Dave says, please do get in touch. The feedback's been coming along. It's really going well. We're really seeing things starting to pick up now, which is brilliant. We actually made it onto a list in the US via FeedSpot, which put us in the top 30 of craft beer podcasts that you should be listening to, which is a real honour considering where we've come from, which is pretty small beginnings. And we were in the list, I should say, there was some real big hitters. So to be in that kind of company is great. We just want to keep getting better and better. And if you want to listen to some other great podcasts, then do check out FeedSpot. Again, have a little search on the internet, it will come up, and hopefully you can find lots of other good things to listen to along with ourselves.
So we will be back on the very first Monday of December, 7 a.m, Spotify, Deezer, everywhere you can find podcasts, we will be there. So from me, Dave D.
And me, Dave B.
We wish you a fond farewell, and we'll see you next month.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone.
Daftaboutcraft.